Welcome to Lunch Hour Live. Listen, remember when we used to travel for good food? Remember? But then 2020 has kept many of us confined to our home kitchens. And guess what? Milk Street Television is here to help us. The Emmy Award winning show, as you know, takes viewers on a culinary adventure around the world where they meet chefs and see new cooking techniques, discover new ingredients, and most importantly, learn how to turn everyday food into something special. Here's a taste of what to expect on the latest season of Milk Street Television.
Time for lunch. You know, as we travel the world for Milk Street, we often do not know what to expect. But today we're in Italy, in Bologna, and we know some of the recipes: ragu bolognese, tortellini in brodo, fried dough, etc. The question is that what people are really cooking today in Bologna?
To make the truly 100% Bolognese with the local meat, local flour, local eggs, local Pignoletto wine.
You have to meet up with this guy, Eduardo Garcia, who cooks the best beans in the world. So we're going to go up an old Aztec canal.
It's a very special way of growing beans in Mexico.
I know I'm in Galilee, but where specifically am I here?
We're in a town called Drame, which is my father's hometown.
So welcome. This is HaCarmel Market, which is the main market of Tel Aviv, but of all the central of Israel.
It has everything. It's got a little fat, it's got a little bit of lean. Fabio, grazie mille. I traveled like 7,000 miles to eat these beans. It was worth it.
Okay, good.
Serve this for dessert,
Right.
and you're a hero. There are a lot of things that are easy that don't taste good. This is easy and it tastes great.
He's
I'm
speechless.
That's so good. L'chaim.
Alessandro, benvenuto a Savigno.
Ciao carissimo,
Ciao.
è un grande piacere.
I'm happy, sad, and I'm joined today by the man behind it all, founder of Milk Street and the host of Milk Street Television and Milk Street Radio, Christopher Kimball. Christopher, great to see you again. Welcome back to Lunch Hour Live.
I'm so depressed. I remember that bottle of wine and at that wonderful farm in Italy, in Bologna, outside of Bologna. It's like, I don't think we even got to bed that night. That was, I want to do that again sometime.
I hope that we will do it again. And I want to talk to you about season 4 of Milk Street. Of course, it premiered in October. But of course, unless you were clairvoyant, and you might be, I don't think you imagined that we would be having a global pandemic. Did the premiere of the season, I know it did, but how did it feel different this year compared to prior years?
Well, we spent more time on the road for season 4, and we were really excited because more of our shows now on the road. And so I was all fired up, to go to start season 5 and get back on the road. I mean, when I get on the road, I get so inspired because it's always the stuff you don't expect. Obviously, when you travel for television, you have to plan your trips. Mm-hmm. But I'd say half the stuff we come back with is not planned. We just run across stuff like that insane guy, with a Pignoletto wine. And so many of these recipes are things you just find. And so it's that sense of discovery. It's adventure. I'm not Marco Polo, but it's still fun. And so we are going back on the road next summer. We've done a lot of virtual kind of tours, as well. We've had a lot of stuff in the can, of course, too. But boy, I need to get out there because there's all that. Like, for example, I was in Mexico City and at a market early in the morning when it was opening, and they served me, as I was waiting to do something else, a corn cake. It's hard to describe, but it turns out to be, I think, one of our most popular recipes on the whole season. And it's made in a blender. You throw it in a pan and in an oven. It's really easy. And I got a cup of coffee with this. I was going it was much better than the main dish I was there to make. So, it's the unexpected. So I can't wait.
It's amazing to me watching the show and then, watching the clips, getting ready to talk to you today, just how important, how important travel is, how important food is, and traveling for meals and traveling for food certainly has become a thing of its own in the past decade or so. Obviously forever, but so more mainstream and accessible for folks. Um, when you're watching and making the show, do you feel like it has more intent? It has more magical value, if you will, that it's an escape, escape to the kitchen, escape to food, escape to the feelings that travel and food bring?
I would say we travel for the people more than the food in a way, because it's the people that tell a story of the food and provide the context. And when I think about a recipe, I think about the person I was there with or cooked with. So I think of our show really is about introducing the people and the places, and the food is a way of getting there and sort of its context. But it's really is you meet the people, and whether you're in Taipei or you're in Chiang Mai or you're in Bologna, it's always the people that I remember. Like in Bologna, outside of Bologna, one morning we went to a little cafe, and in the back there were three women in their 80s frying bread and drinking piñolato. That's what everyone does. It's a champagne, but it's if you mention champagne, they'll get mad at you. And drinking cafe, and they were having the most fun ever, And so one of them said, "Well, you really need to, give one of them a kiss." I did. And they said, "Why I didn't get my kiss?" And I went, "Well, where's mine?" And we had more wine and ate more bread. And so I just remember those three women who were hardworking but just delightful people.
I want to show a clip, and we'll talk some more about it on the other side of your trip to Bologna, the Milk Street Television, the series. And I hope you're not hungry while you're watching at home, because it is some seriously delicious looking and I'm sure tasting food. Let's take a look.
What are we going to start with? It's cotoletta.
We start before, then you follow.
Okay. It's like being married.
Parmigiano.
And then you did this.
No.
No.
Su.
Yeah. Okay.
Ok.
Okay.
E poi nel pane. Ok.
Okay.
Ok. Perfetto. Ok. Vedete che il liquido sta stringendo? No. Tutto. Ham, Parmesan cheese.
All together.
All together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What?
Truffle. Wow.
I like the texture. The veal's nice. The Parmesan, the prosciutto, the sauce, big flavors, 10 minutes. This is what he was talking about, good fast food.
I love watching you get a little schooled there on.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, they dope slap me all the time.
And I was shocked, the 10 minutes part and the fast food part, it just, I'd ask you what it tastes like, but I'm already, salivating here and excited to want to get back. The feeling of the kitchens in Italy, I think, is it unlike any place else in the world?
Well, the secret about Italy is they start like in the Bologna area, they have prosciutto, they have amazing white truffles that cost nothing in the fall. They have the balsamic vinegar from Modena, they have Parmesan cheese, they have all these basic ingredients. And so when you start with those ingredients, I mean, you can't go wrong, really. So I think that's the secret to the kitchen in that part of Italy. But what's interesting is you can go around the world in the kitchens. I was in Dakar and the kitchen looked like it was from New Jersey. I mean, it was like what you think going in is never what you find. So I think the kitchens don't change too much. It's just the way people think about cooking and approach cooking is different. I mean, in Japan, how you think about how you move in the kitchen is different. If you're in Mexico City, it's about tradition and some other things. If you're in Italy, it's about the wine and the coffee and the Parmesan. So the feeling in the kitchen is different, yeah.
We were fortunate enough for my daughter's 16th birthday, we were able to go to Rome, and she was able to take a cooking lesson on the day of her 16th birthday in an apartment that was once rented by Marlon Brando, which didn't mean anything to her at the time, but it does now. And fascinated at how intertwined, food and milestones have been throughout our entire being on this planet, since I think we first made our first fires. Do you think that there's a big cultural difference between how people, nationalities and view food? Like, do Italians view food differently than Americans do? Or is it a commonality that we all share?
Well, on the menu at that place, Bertozzi, we just saw the clip from, it specifically it says, not too nicely in Italian, turn your bloody phone off. It's like either you're here or you could leave. So yeah, food for them is not something you talk about all the time. It's not special occasion. It's just what you do all day. I mean, it's part of your everyday life. I think America, in parts of Northern Europe, food's very different than most of the rest of the world, where it's integrated as a fundamental part of life. In the Middle East, I was in northern Israel a couple of years ago, and we were cooking, and it was the Reem Kassis who wrote The Palestinian Table. Well, it was her mother and father there, her 2 kids were there, her husband was there, and then all of a sudden an aunt and uncle showed up and a couple of neighbors. Suddenly there's like 14 people there, around a table. And so you can see how food just draws everyone together. So I think we've always had that tradition here. It's just that our culture's changed so much in the last 100 years that we've gotten away from that so much. And people in the rest of the world don't do as much takeout and as much. I mean, in Tel Aviv, they eat out a lot, certainly. But there's more home cooking going on in lots of other places, which means that food is more central to your day-to-day existence.
Well, you're talking about change, of course, and one of the issues that you take a look at is whether or not the tourism and younger chefs are pushing what we think of as classic and timeless dishes. You spoke with Matt Golding, a journalist. We're going to take a look at that clip.
Bologna, you said, wasn't much of a tourist destination a few years ago.
I was here three years ago doing the research for the book, and I see an incredible change already just from the number of people you're seeing. I think a lot of that speaks to just the style of tourism that we're seeing around the world now, a lot more food-based tourism, and suddenly people are aware that this is where you want to come to eat. Is that going to eventually impact the food scene here negatively? You talk to certain people, it already has. People think that Italian cuisine should not change. That is this like almost perfectly set creation where you don't mess with the recipes of yesteryear. The thing I've found really interesting is actually the cuisine is evolving. People just kind of gently nudging the cuisine forward. Young chefs are doing cool things without being overly aggressive and exploring the idea that maybe it's not all set in stone.
It's always changing, isn't it, Christopher? I mean, what's your take on this? Are there some classics that are just untouchable, or are we just all in this mess together?
Every time someone talks to me about recipes as if they were works of art, like their songs or paintings, like Yesterday by Paul McCartney, that's nonsense. I mean, if you want to get into a fight, go to Tel Aviv and tell everybody the perfect way to make hummus, or a kebab or chicken soup or anything else. I mean, the recipes change from country to country, from town to town, from family to family, from day to day. If you think about any country, you look at all the influences over the years, right, that have changed the food. So whatever you see today in Mexico City, come back in a year, you'll see a change. That doesn't mean there aren't traditions and there aren't fundamental recipes, but you can make hummus with garlic or not with garlic. You can serve it warm and whipped. There's a lot, or you can serve it with a million different toppings. I went to Shlomo and Duran, which is the oldest hummus place in Tel Aviv. He had Balkan hummus, he had Mexican hummus, he had shakshuka hummus, he had et cetera. So the point was that everything's changing. I think Italy may change less than many places, but if you take ragu bolognese, which is a meat sauce, right? The different kinds of meat, people use different kinds of meat in different proportions. Is it local meat? Is it not local meat? It's all different. So, tradition's there, but tradition's there to be changed to make a new tradition, right? Really.
One of the great hallmarks of the show is that you bring things back to Milk Street Kitchen to share with folks at home how to recreate some of the dishes. Is there anything from this past season that you were thrilled to be able to share with your viewers?
Yeah, there was a really amazing recipe, which was sort of a corn souffle that we did on the show, and it was just like I never had it before. We made it here like a year ago, and I said we got to test this 10 or 12 more times just so I can keep tasting it for the next 2 weeks. So there are some things that are just amazing. I mean, there are the recipes for like a flatbread that takes 10 minutes to make, and you go, this is, no one thinks of making flatbreads in this country for some strange reason, most of us, and it takes no time, and you go like, that's amazing. Or you have this combination of flavors, the way sweet and sour go together in lots of places. So yeah, I think the one dish that also really is iconic in Bologna and is totally messed up here is lasagna bolognese. They don't use mozzarella. They use almost no cheese, just a little bit of Parmesan. It's a meat sauce, and there isn't a lot of other stuff. It's just pasta and meat sauce. It's a thin and it's very soft, and it's rich, but you don't have a ton of dairy in it, and it's not this big thick thing. So it's a totally different thing. In fact, they don't use cream, they don't use dairy in their sauce there. So I love it when you go somewhere for a dish that we think we know because we've been doing this so long, and it turns out no, we don't know how to make it. I don't understand why after all this time that we don't know, because how many people have been there to make that recipe, right? And before me. So I always love it when we come across something like that.
Look, you got a new cookbook out called Cookish, Throw It Together. And it's all, again, you're clairvoyant. I mean, if there was ever a title for a year for a cookbook for this year, Cookish, Throw It Together would be it. How's it different from other cookbooks that you've written and that you've been involved in?
Well, I'm not a fan in general of the 5 or 6 ingredient cookbook because, it's you put mustard on chicken parts and throw it in a 350 oven for an hour. It's one of those. So we tried to take 6 ingredients of the salt, pepper, oil, and say how do we make them interesting by combining big, bold flavors. So it's really a way of distilling down bigger recipes to smaller recipes to get at the essence of the recipe, so that the next time you make the recipe, you could improvise with it. We actually have in the ingredients substitutions. So the point was not to do easy recipes per se. It's to do recipes that distill the concept of a recipe, so you get the concept, right? If you take a dish like a caramel shrimp, well, you take a little sugar and water, cook that down for a few minutes, and then you cook some ginger and some other things, chilies in it briefly for a minute, add the shrimp in, it's done in like 5 minutes. Well, you have fish sauce, you have caramel, you have ginger, you may have some herbs in it at the end, etc. So you have all these things together, and it tells the story of some of the basic approaches they use in Vietnam to merging all these different things, a fermented sauce with something fatty like shrimp, with something bittersweet like caramel. So it's the story the recipe tells that's important. And hopefully you can go, oh, I could do this with chicken, or I could do this with something else, or I could do this with, instead of ginger, I'll use something else. So I could use lemongrass. So it's a way of teaching cooking through simple recipes.
So I imagine, usually my beat is politics. And for the past 4 years, I've been afraid to go out prior pandemic, because I usually get put on the spot to ask a lot of questions about politics and policy. And I imagine now that all of us are exploring our inner chef, if you will, in the kitchen for either pleasure or because we're forced to. Are you getting a lot of calls? I mean, are you the speed dial? Are your friends and family relying on you more during the pandemic than they usually do for inspiration on how to cook through the pandemic?
Yeah, we certainly have seen that here. The interest in cooking has gone way up now. What I really hope for the future is that now people have had to cook for themselves. They haven't had much of an option. That some of that sticks, going into the future. I think it will. I think once everything's reopened, I'm sure people will go out to eat and go to bars and have a good time. I hope they do. But I think some of this will stay with them, because what's I think happened is cooking has gone from being inconvenient for a lot of people to being pleasurable, right? And that's, Julia Child always talked about that too. You know, cooking itself should be pleasurable. And I think that's the lesson, a lesson in the last year is that, you know, cooking can be enjoyable, the process itself. And once you get to that point, then, you know, not cooking, life isn't as much fun. Maybe you don't want to cook every day, 3 times a day, like we've been doing. There can be too much cooking, I think. I can't wait to go out for dinner. But, you know, cooking is a really important part of my life. And I think it's a more important part of other people's lives now, too.
You know, it's funny. My life changed when I found out or realized that cooking is actually science. You know, my whole entire viewpoint of how to cook became more engaging for me. So I'm hoping that other folks find their sliver of enjoyment if they find it to be a chore. Do you have any advice besides what you just told us? Is there any like one essential tool or one essential skill that folks should have as we look? You know, hopefully we're just going to have to get through the next 6 to 8 months. But do you have any parting words of wisdom for folks?
I have 2. Make sure you have you can sharpen your knife. 70% of home cooks never sharpen their knives. It's like buying a car and never getting it serviced. You know, I mean, if it's not sharp, you know, 90% of cooking is prep. The cooking's easy. If everything's prepped and you have the bowls and everything, the actual cooking is not hard. It's the prep it's a pain. So with a sharp knife and a little technique, it's actually fun to do and it's quick. So that would be the first thing. So you probably need an electric knife sharpener. You know, a sharpening steel doesn't sharpen a dull knife. It tunes up a knife. So you need to get that too. Please use enough salt. I mean, people don't salt their food and they just follow a recipe. If it's a soup or a stew or something where you can adjust it at the end, you know, a skillet dish, please taste it before you serve it. And take a couple of minutes, taste it 3 or 4 times. Add a little salt, add a little ginger, add some fresh herbs. You know, if the herbs go at the beginning of a recipe, you can put them in at the end too. Add a little bit of spice, add some other things to it. And you can take a good recipe, make it a great recipe just by slight adjustments in sweetness and sourness, in salt, in spice. That's the one thing people could do and they'd be so much better in the kitchen.
Christopher, thank you so much for taking time to join us. Great to see you again. Can't wait to see you in person. I want to thank everyone for watching on Facebook and YouTube. We are off for the holidays, so I will see you in the new year. Everybody stay safe and we'll see you then.